Greetings. I want to talk about restorative eating and why it's necessary. Now, what is restorative eating and how is it different from just eating or even eating healthy? Restorative eating is eating to bring your body back to its optimal health. That is, no health issues and a robust, fast-acting immune system to keep you that way. Our immune system is under constant assault, as I've said before, so every day you need to be proactive in making sure that you not only feed your body, but you feed your immune system as well. Now, how do we do this? We know that the immune system lives primarily in the gut, where bacteria in the stomach are churning out antibodies that attack germs and harmful microbes from something we might ingest or inhale. Keeping this bacteria in balance by eating prebiotic foods like garlic, high fiber vegetables, raw honey, and also foods like black beans and red potatoes. Those are prebiotic foods, and I'll explain what that is later. Now, what happens is this. Prebiotic foods, let me get into that. Prebiotic foods are resistant starches, meaning that the body has to go through several processes to break them down. And sometimes the body doesn't, the digestive acids don't completely break them down. So what has to happen is the gut flora bacteria has to then kick in and start to break down the remnants of what the digestive system or the initial digestive system missed. Okay, in a nutshell. So what happens is as the digestive fluids decrease in their effectiveness, again, the bacteria in your intestines start to try to finish the breakdown of the food matter. Now, this causes the bacteria to grow and multiply from feeding on the undigested or semi-digested remnants of the gut. And this is how you feed your internal flora to boost your immune system. So it's the type of foods that you eat. And again, they're called prebiotic rather than probiotic. Another way to get a wide array of resistant food is through a mixture of vegetables like onions and garlic. Lots of onions and garlic. Now, this is a hidden secret of why onions and garlic are known to maintain health, not only because of their antioxidant and nutritional properties, but because they directly feed and multiply the healthy bacteria in the body, which have a major impact on your overall health. Just as certain foods have multiple benefit spectrums, certain things you can do to keep your body in shape also have multifaceted health benefits. One thing is having a regular workout routine that can help you monitor your whole body in a very intuitive way. To really learn and monitor the body, you need to engage in an exercise regimen because what that does is it keeps the body in a quick cellular turnover that's happening on a scale that you can immediately see or measure. By this I mean that your muscle, tendons, and your cardiovascular muscles are being torn down or strengthened and rebuilt quickly. Now what this does is it gives rise to aches and pains in the areas that are being rebuilt. And if your intake is not sufficient, if you're not eating enough, weak points in the way of lagging pains and injuries will indicate that you're not eating enough because the diet is not adequate enough to rebuild the tissues that you're tearing down. So you can now know that your macronutrients are unbalanced as well as deficient, or both. For example, if your exercise leaves you tired the whole day, then you may need more complex carbs as well as more calories. Again, if the tissue is rebuilding at a slow rate or slow pace, and you have persistent aches and pains, then you may have to up your protein. Okay, so you can see how this can give you a better gauge as to where you are in terms of your anabolism and catabolism, whether your body is building itself or breaking itself down. One thing for sure, when you start a program of either lifting or sports or basically any regular exercise program, how you're eating now or at that time before you start, that will become obsolete. And then you'll have to delve into the science of feeding the body a restorative intake. But that doesn't take away from the need to eat restoratively even without exercise. One of the things I repeatedly stress in consultations is for people to take a multivitamin, whether exercising or not, especially if you are exercising. Now, this is critical because much of the food we eat comes from denatured soil, which is a growing problem most people are unaware of. Now, this negates the argument that we can live and eat the way our ancestors or grandparents did and still get the same nutritional value. That's just not the case, and any knowledgeable farmer or agricultural expert will tell you that, because this is the problem that many of them face in terms of getting good soil for the produce on their farms. Now, of course, you can get good food from some sources, but that does take time and research, and I doubt that most people, including myself, know the geographical source and soil conditions of all the food they eat. But if you do, that's a good thing. You should put content out there of how to do that, and especially if you have a system by which you do that. Another thing I stress is that the vitamins you get should be food sourced, and I'm talking about in terms of your vitamin supplementation. It should be whole food sourced and not synthetic. Now, back in the day, about 3 years ago, I have suggested synthetic forms of a multivitamin, and they were pharmaceutical grade. But as we grow, we learn. So now I'm going with all food sourced. Plus, we have to consider that these companies change their ingredients without a notice outside the change on the label. For example, I used to take an iron supplement that had a very good form of B12 infused with it. Now, the B12 was a methylcobalamin form, which is one of the best besides adenosylcobalamin. Now, after about a year of using this product, I looked at the label to double check something, and I saw that they started using cyanocobalamin. Now, for those who don't know, cyanocobalamin is when the B12 molecules have a cyanide molecule attached to it. And the theory is that the cyanide molecule stabilizes the cobalamin molecule until it reaches the right areas of absorption by the intestines. And what supposedly happens is that the body splits the two molecules and uses the cobalamin and gets rid of the cyanide. The problem is cyanide is a poison. And add to the fact that you can have a methyl group, which is similar to the methane produced by the body's process of digestion. Now, this form has very little, if any, toxicity in its form as a methyl bond for the B12 methylcobalamin. You also have a hydroxy group made with water molecules as well. But the point is, there's no need to put a poison molecule in this vitamin, which is really a coenzyme, but that's a different subject. Cyanocobalamin is the cheapest form, so it's easy to see why it's the most used. It's very cost effective for producers, and this is something that they do across the board when profit becomes an issue. They start using cheaper ingredients and other forms to cut corners. So, you always keep an eye on the ingredients. But with food sourced supplements, you shouldn't get any toxic or synthetic chemicals, many of which have been known to cancel out the benefits of many of the minerals and vitamins within that same formula. Now, the only drawback per se in the food sourced multivitamins, for example, is that they're not as dense in nutritive numbers or quote unquote potent as synthetics. By that I mean, you may find a synthetic form of vitamin A with 1500 micrograms of the retinol activity in one capsule, whereas with most whole food forms, you need 3 to 4 capsules to get probably less than half of that. But still, you come out better with the whole foods form. You just have to take a little bit more, because the bioactivity is better, meaning that your body will work less in trying to absorb it, because it doesn't have to sift out any toxins or any inorganic material, and it will absorb most, if not all, of the whole food form without having to use your renal system or urinary waste system to get rid of the synthetic byproducts. Much of our food is denatured as well, and a lot of times you'll see food that says fortified with this or fortified with that. And in my opinion, this is to hide either extreme processing, where natural enzymes and nutrients are killed off through the processing, or for one reason or another, the food source is denatured in the first place. And sometimes fortification is a selling point. For example, you can get orange juice fortified with calcium, but the calcium is basically rock. Usually if an ingredient doesn't come from a plant, tree, or is not at least sourced from something from a plant or tree, I don't bother with it. Now, of course, we have our cheat meals and days where we sacrifice to the sugar demons every once in a while, but 95% of your intake should be carefully chosen produce from Mother Earth. And don't forget that food-borne viruses are becoming a problem in the U.S. to the point where thoroughly washing, cooking, and preparing food is now an essential part of maintaining your very health. So be careful, choose your food wisely, minimize, if not eliminate processed foods, use the whole food supplementation when at all possible, and prepare foods thoroughly to restore your most precious building, your temple. Till next video, peace. If you learned from this video, help support the study and time to bring this knowledge to our community. It does take time and effort to be concise and as accurate as possible so that we can stay abreast of important health information and techniques. Please visit the site and follow these links.